Assalamu alaikum.
This is Safiya.
And this is Mahad.
And today we're going to talk about i'tikaf in the last 10 nights of Ramadan.
The last 10 nights of Ramadan are the best time of the year to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to disconnect with everything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try our level best in these last couple of nights to disconnect from those things that distract us from Him. May that be social media, may that be spending time on our phone or hanging out and having lavish iftar parties, or even maybe with work or school and family. If we're able to disconnect from those things, that's great. And if we're not, we had a previous video where we talked about Allah knowing our difficulties. But in these last 10 nights, try to put as many of those excuses aside as possible and connect with our Master. And one beautiful way of doing that is by making i'tikaf, which basically means spending a long period of time in the masjid. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ actually mentions the reward of making i'tikaf just for one day, sincerely for the sake of Allah. He says the individual that does that, making i'tikaf for one day for the sake of Allah, Allah would place between that person and the fire of hell 3 massive trenches. And each of these trenches would be so vast that the length between them would be greater than the heavens and the earth. And this hadith is reported by Al-Bayhaqi fi Sha'b al-Iman wa fihi da'fun.
So what is i'tikaf? I'tikaf, like Mahad said, is staying in the masjid for a prolonged period of time. The Prophet ﷺ used to usually spend 10 full nights, the last 10 nights of Ramadan, in the masjid. But scholars have said, while that is the best goal that we should try to achieve, it's also permissible to spend just 1 night or 2 nights, and even some have said that just a small period of time, like say the window between Maghrib and Fajr time, it's permissible to consider that i'tikaf. It just has a couple of rules. Number 1, you make that intention for what span of time you're going to do i'tikaf. Number 2, you do not leave the masjid premises unless you have a need that is definitely necessary for you to go out. And number 3, that you do as little socialization as possible. You're supposed to be getting away from all distractions, so don't come with your best bud and talk all night about something else. If you come with someone, only do so in sharing in the worship of Allah. Now, as for women, can women do i'tikaf in the masjid? Absolutely. The Prophet ﷺ used to do i'tikaf in the masjid. His wives also joined him. And Aisha radiallahu anha mentions in a hadith in Bukhari that the wives of the Prophet ﷺ used to regularly do i'tikaf in Ramadan after his death. Now, can a woman do i'tikaf in the home? There is a big difference of opinion. Majority of scholars say that i'tikaf must be done in the masjid. However, the Hanafi madhab does allow for women to do i'tikaf in their home. And I would say if you are in a country or a region or a community where women are not allowed to go to the masjid, you're barred from the masjid altogether, then it would be suitable to take this opinion that a woman is allowed to do i'tikaf in her home. As for those of us who are able to go and do i'tikaf in the masjid, then may Allah make it easy for us, for moms and dads, for people who it may be difficult for. Try your best, find a babysitter, find those extra hours on the weekend, maybe a Friday or Saturday night, where you can put all your other worries aside and say, I'm going to spend all of this time for the sake of Allah. May Allah give blessings in these last 10 nights and allow us to at least do one portion of time in i'tikaf for the sake of Allah.
All right.